Once again, you're most welcome. Today, we're looking at the topic assessment. What is assessment? And we'll also look at the forms of assessment and things that we need to know about assessment before we go and write the promotion aptitude test. So, when we talk about assessment, it's about the process of obtaining information and using the information to make decision about the student learning, about the curriculum or the curricula or a program and educational policy. So if we assess by gathering information and using that information to make decision about the student, the curricula, the programs, the educational policies, that is assessment. And assessment include a full range of procedures used to gather about students' learning. So it is very important that we learn this topic, not purposely for the exams, but for classroom or the teaching and learning process. Is very important. So let's look at some of the forms of assessment. Assessment has two forms, and one is the informal assessment and formal assessment. Looking at formal assessment is method of gathering information and interpreting information about student learning and performance is standard or formally structured. It involves a standard administration of the assessment process and that have a norms or a formal interpretation of the test procedures. So it is very important that we know what formal assessment is. It implies using tests that involve a standard administration, as I said, and it uses a norms or a formal interpretive procedures in interpreting the information that you have gathered. Then formal assessment is standardized tests or is a non-referent tests. It's a standardized test or non-reference test. Standardized test in the sense that it measures the student's knowledge against the standard, or when you're obtaining information about the student, the information that you are gathering measures against the set standard, the precondition standard that is set for you to follow before these things are or information is obtained. So these tests are used to assess the overall achievement, of the learner, then compares the student performance to their peers. That is the non-reference tests or the non-reference test format. So it's very, very important. So if we are talking about a non-reference test, it simply means that the non-reference test, the student's performance is compared against the larger group. The student's performance is compared against the larger group or the larger norm. That's why we're saying non-reference test. The performance of the student's results is compared to their group or their peers. Let me say it that way. So the larger or the norm group is a national sample representing a wider and a diverse cross of students. different kind of students that you compare the results with, and it's very important that we know this. Then in a non-reference test, the norms are established to describe the test scores in terms of the location relative to the body of the scores and that have already been collected. So a non-reference test items, the performance of the student is pre-established or predetermined, and it describes the scores in terms of the location relative to the body of the score. So it's very important that we know the non-reference test to help us. Then let's look at some of the types of formal assessment. These are very important, and they come in the promotion aptitude test. So one of the types of the formal assessment is one. We have various types of formal assessment, but we are going to look at about four types of formal assessment. One is the standardized achievement test. One type of the formal assessment is the standardized achievement test. That is one example of the standardized test. Then two, aptitude test. Aptitude test is one of the formal assessment, aptitude test. Then we also have intelligence test. Intelligence test is another example of the formal assessment. And we also have individual achievement test. Individual achievement test. Now, when we say standardized test, what does it mean? Standardized achievement test. So a standardized achievement test, it is a test that designed specifically to measure the degree of students learning in a specific curriculum or in a specific course. So if you are measuring the learner performance or the degree of the learner learning in a specific course area or curriculum area or subject area, that is what we term as achievement, standardized achievement test. Then the standardized achievement test assesses the previous acquired knowledge and ability of a learner. So if you want to know what standardized achievement test means, it measures the pre-acquired or the previously acquired knowledge by the learner and the learner ability to do something. In this, it compares the achievement of all students in the norms group or the particular group. So take very note of this. So standardized test, it measures the degree of the learner or the student learning in a particular course area or a specific curriculum course area. That is standardized achievement test. Now let's look at the next one, that is the aptitude test. What is an aptitude test? Like teachers go and write aptitude test. An aptitude test is one of the example or one of the types of formal assessment. So aptitude test, this is a test good for measuring the knowledge that a student already has when entering classroom or the grade level. So the knowledge that we test when learners come to the next or before they will go to the next classroom, we will measure their learning level to see whether they will be able to fit into that grade level or that classroom. So it is very, very necessary for teachers to know beforehand the performance of the students for him to determine whether the learner will be able to succeed in that classroom or that level. So it's very important. Then the next one is intelligent tests. Intelligent tests is another example of formal assessment, another type of formal assessment, intelligent tests. So in intelligent tests, in the layman point of view, intelligent test is the one who intelligent person is the one who scored the highest marks in academic skills or academic area, especially in the examination. So if we say that someone is intelligent, the person has performed beyond or has performed very well in his classroom, his course area, and that person qualifies to be in the next group. So the academic performance of the person and special qualities of the person, that is achievement test. So achievement test is the psychological construction, and it is beyond the scores marks in the academic field. The person performs very well in his or her academic field, and in other field the person can still replicate the same thing that he has performed in the classroom, or in other field the person can still perform and perform well. That is an example of an intelligent test. So it is very important for us to know this before we go and write our promotion aptitude test. Forget not to subscribe. See us in our next video.